Good evening, everyone. I call the Marlington Local School District Board of Education regular meeting to order on January 21st, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The reading of the mission statement will be by Mrs. Danielle Stevens.
In collaboration with staff, community, parents, and students, the Marlington Local School District will develop lifelong learners who understand and apply knowledge and demonstrate excellence in pursuing the highest standards with effective intervention to challenge every student.
Thank you. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Dr. Main, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gabrick?
Here.
Mr. Hagan?
Here.
Mrs. Humphries?
Here.
Dr. Mason?
Here.
Mrs. Stevens?
Here.
Adoption of the meeting agenda. Are there any additions or corrections? Is there a motion for the Marlington Local Board of Education to adopt the following agenda for the January 21st, 2021 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick?
Yes.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries?
Yeah.
Dr. Mason?
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens?
Yes.
Approved. 5-0.
Special presentations. Dr. Schruffler?
Okay, good evening, everybody. We don't do this very often or probably often enough, but once a year, we always recognize our Board of Education members. And our Ohio School Boards Association, as well as our community, would like to thank all of you for your service. And I always tell the public, you know, board members are unsung heroes. They really don't get paid for what they do. They spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, talk to a lot of people. It really is a labor of love. So we thank you very much. Mrs. Gabrick, our board president, Mr. Josh Hagan, our board vice president, Mrs. Karen Humphries, our board member, Dr. Scott Mason, board member, and Mrs. Danielle Stevens, board member. So once again, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Public participation. Dr. Main, did you receive any documents for the public participation this evening?
No documents were received.
Thank you. Old business, lease purchase discussion. Dr. Mike, do you want to head this up?
Yes, I will head this up. So at the last board meeting, the board passed a resolution that allows us to enter into a lease purchase with the bank. It's a quite lengthy legal document, and it gave the treasurer and I the authority to, continue to look for the best rates, the bank, etc. And we've had a lot of discussion about this. I've talked with each board member about this. Patty Main and I have had a lot of discussion. And when it was all said and done, we did settle on Consumers Bank. They are our local bank who handles our day-to-day, our payroll, those things. So we're very pleased to enter into an agreement with them. The lease purchase will be for 7 years. And I believe the interest rate incredibly is 1.85. Is that, Dr. Main, did I get that right? 1.85 was, so right. We are very pleased with that. And Dr. Main has been very busy this week with documents and answering questions and so on and so forth. Did anyone have any question about that piece?
The questions I would have, I just wanted to confirm that is with no prepayment penalties. Is that correct?
There's no penalty at all for prepayment. So
And you chose the one with a semi-annual payment that includes both principal and interest. Is that correct?
that is correct. Yep.
Okay.
And those are terms, just let the public that's watching, those are terms that Consumers Bank worked with us, and it took a lot, and they've really become our partner in this endeavor. So yes, those things are all in place.
Thank you.
The second part there, I have to apologize. The original motion we drew up for December, our December board meeting, the second one, and we did not catch that we had the December date in there. So we need to make sure that the date is correct. So we have to amend the two resolutions that they were actually approved on January 7th. So just so everything's, all our I's are dotted and T's crossed, I'm going to ask you to amend that, those two resolutions.
Is there a motion to amend the resolutions recommended by the superintendent that were approved at the January 7th, 2021 board meeting concerning the execution of the base lease purchase agreement marked Exhibit D and the resolution approving a written post-issuance compliance policy marked Exhibit E to reflect the correction of the date of the resolutions to read January 21st, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I just had one question. Dr. Mike, we don't need a separate motion for choosing consumers. Everything is in place that you need for consumers once we pass this amended resolution. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes?
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
No.
Dr. Mason,
No.
Mrs. Stevens.
Yes.
Approved,
3-2.
New business program of studies for the 2021-22 school year.
Okay, let me kick this off and then I'll turn it over to the committee. So every year we ask the board to approve our program of studies. This mainly deals with our high school program. And all of you that are board members have had a chance to look at this. Mrs. Sutton is in charge of our curriculum, so she plays a big role in this. Mr. Spondil, our high school principal, Mr. Miller, who not only does athletics, but looks after our career tech. So a lot of work goes into this. And I did want to point out, I did talk to a couple of you. When you read the course of studies, most of those courses we offer every year, but some of those courses are board approved, but we are not able to offer. So the kids know, they talk with their guidance counselors on those issues. But I'm proud of what we're offering, a large array of classes so that we can be competitive with other high schools. So we have two board members that serve on the curriculum committee, Dr. Mason and Mrs. Stevens, and we met together in a committee meeting last week. So I'm going to turn it over, either Dr. Mason, Mrs. Stevens, Mrs. Sutton, anybody like to comment?
I'll start. The changes were mainly in names, not really in content, to line up with what was being actually done as far as some of the programs of study. There wasn't any major changes that took place. Other than that, I didn't see any problems with anything in there. And I'll turn it now to Mrs. Sutton, who knows a little more in depth of the changes that were made. And I don't know if we want to go over them. I don't think we need to. It was just some basically names that were changed.
Thank you, Dr. Mason. I really have no more to add. I think Dr. Schreffler did a did a very comprehensive overview of what's involved in the program of studies. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Weren't there some additions besides names being changed?
We added, I'm excited, we added a jewelry making course to our art department. And what happens with art, often we'll rotate courses in our high schools. You know, I've seen, you know, paper making, knitting, there's all kinds of courses that we can offer in our art department. And next year we have added that one. I'm not, anyone else, Mrs. Sutton, need other courses?
Cybersecurity course.
Yes, cybersecurity, which is, as you can imagine, is incredibly popular right now. And we have a teacher now that is certified to teach that. So we added the cybersecurity course.
Were there any deletions to our program of studies?
I don't think we deleted anything. We still are not at the point where we can offer American Sign Language, but we left that in the program. I can't think off the top of my head of anything we deleted at this moment. Sometimes classes don't fill and then we don't have that class.
Okay.
I would just like to say I was really excited for the cybersecurity course, especially being in banking. I see a lot with fraudulent things that happen day to day. I would also like to, the next committee meeting, we could maybe make that where it's not during the day. It's just very hard for me to leave work during the day to attend committee meetings like that. I understand it's Zoom, but I don't have that capability of leaving my office to do so. So if we could just make that happen, that would be wonderful. I'd really appreciate that, Carol, and Dr. Mason as well. And thank you, Dr. Mason, for what you shared, and Carol.
Okay, we will try to do that. No worries.
Thank you, Dr. Mike.
Could you just give a brief overview of what our requirement is for student enrollment in order to be able to offer a class? Is there like a minimum number of students that need to be in a particular class before we can actually have it?
I think that would be a case by case. You know, it just depends. And sometimes, you know, you have years that have less kids, and if kids start a series, you don't want to leave them hanging. You know, so we've done things, I'm sure we've done this at Marlington, like maybe you combine French 3 and 4 because they're, you know, that makes a more full class, things like that. We do everything we can to maximize.
And as far as the career tech education classes, cybersecurity is going to fall into the career tech, is that correct? So we have the weighted
It will.
funding. And
Correct.
did we add any other career tech classes this year?
I don't think we added any other career tech to our docket at Marlington.
Okay.
But we are doing one of the classes in-house that the students were previously going out of school to do, one of the CCP classes.
For CCP, we are trying to add the speech class into our building. And, you know, that saves us money. If a student goes under CCIP to the university, it costs us a little more. And I like to keep our kids in-house too, so they don't miss the social aspect and everything. So yes, we believe that will be in place as well, yes.
Okay.
And on that note, there has to be, in order for us to have it in-house for the CCP, we'd have to have a minimum number of students in order to cover the cost. Is that how you make that decision?
We'll have to look at that. I'm not too worried about that. Speech is a pretty popular class, and most universities you can count it as a course that, you know, one of those courses students take that everybody takes their first couple of years. I'm pretty confident. We have a lot of kids taking it outside, so I'm pretty confident about that. If it doesn't go, it doesn't go. You know, we won't run it.
Right.
Isn't the bigger stumbling block finding a teacher who's qualified via the college's requirements?
It is. So the teacher has to have a master's degree in that subject area or a master's degree and 18 graduate hours in that subject area. So we have to, and then they have to be credentialed by the university that, or the, in some cases we use Start State. They have to be credentialed by the university or college body as well.
And do we have someone that has those qualifications then?
We do. I don't recall who that is. Mrs. Sutton, do you?
Yes, that's Mrs. Lowe Miller.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good.
Are there any further questions? Is there a motion to approve the program of studies for the 2021-22 school year as presented in marked Exhibit G?
So moved.
I'll second Scott's.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes?
Mr. Hagan?
Yep.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens,
Yes.
approved, 5-0.
Okay, and then I've one tuition approval I would like you to approve. We have a young lady who has moved back from out of state, and this is a Marlington family. Her father's a graduate of Marlington, and sometimes when you move back from out of state, you can't right away move in exactly to the school district you want. So it's my recommendation that we take this student under tuition, and that does benefit us as well, with the cost.
Is there a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the acceptance of Sydney Scouting grade 10 at Marlington High School as a tuition student for the remainder of the 2021 school year?
So moved.
So
Second.
moved.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens,
Yes.
approved, 5-0.
Treasurer's agenda, Dr. Patty Main.
Thank you. The first item is to approve the board minutes from December 17th and also both the organizational and regular meeting on January 7th.
Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's recommendation to approve the minutes for the regular meeting December 17th, 2020, organizational meeting January 7th, 2021, and the regular meeting January 7th, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I did notice on the December 17 minutes, top of, page 4, it's the little voting table related to the Plug Smart resolution. I think some X's are in the wrong space. There are like 3-second, motion seconds. So you just need to move all of us over.
Okay, thank you.
What page is that, Karen?
It's 4. At least that's how it comes up on in the document right now. Top of the page.
Yeah. 3 seconds.
I'll make those corrections.
Is there a motion to amend the minutes for December 17th, 2020 on page 4, item C? for the second motion.
It's also the nays aren't marked on there as well.
Pardon me?
The nays aren't marked as well. Or those second motions are probably just supposed to be in the nay column, is what it is. The first 2 second. Is that correct?
That's
Karen?
correct. That's correct, yeah.
Hey, Karen, do you have the vote on that so we can, do you have the information on that?
Remember, and Dr. Mason will have to confirm, I voted no on that. And I believe he did on the smart contract.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so those 2 second of the motions would just be moved over to nay for the 2 of us.
Correct.
Would be helpful in the future if you wouldn't mind reaching out to Dr. Main ahead of time so we could have that corrected for the meeting. So is there a motion to amend the motion for the minutes for the regular meeting December 17th to correct page 4, item C, for Karen and Scott to vote no and Danielle to have seconded the motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll on the amendment to the motion to correct the December 17th minutes.
I apologize for that. Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes,
Dr. Mason,
Yes,
Mrs. Stevens.
Yes.
Approved, 5-0.
The motion on the floor is there a motion to approve the treasurer's recommendation for the minutes for the meeting of the regular meeting, December 17th, 2020, as amended for page 4, item C, organizational meeting January 7th and regular meeting January 7th.
So moved.
We already have the first and second on that. Is there any further
Sorry.
discussion on motion as amended? Please call the roll on the motion as amended.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
yes,
Dr. Mason,
yes,
Mrs. Stevens.
Yes.
Approved, 5-0. The next item is to approve the financial reports for December. These are documents Exhibit H and Exhibit I.
Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's recommendation to approve the financial reports and overview of receipts and expenditures for the period ending December 31st, 2020, as presented in marked Exhibit H and Exhibit I?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Dr. Main, if you would maybe just give us a brief overview and then we can ask questions.
Yes, thank you. On the first page of Exhibit H, you will see the fund balances. If you look at, I want to call your attention to the 006, the food service. We have made some changes. And if you look at the month-to-date receipts versus the month-to-date expenditures, you can see that those changes are making a difference in the fund. I want to say thank you to all of the cafeteria staff and the administrators for taking those action steps and making that trend turn to a positive. As you can see, the current fund balance is still in the negative, but once we return from virtual remote learning, I anticipate that we will continue to trend in the positive direction. Just to give you an update on that, we are at a negative 23,000 at this point. For any other questions on that? If not, the next document is I, and that is the check pay. I do want to highlight just a few things. As you know, we have received several grants to help with the COVID-19 environment and to purchase extra supplies to make sure that our buildings are sanitized. So there are several of these that just relate to that. If you look about halfway down the page, you'll see one for about $9,000. That one is a grant funded, again, some of that COVID pandemic funds coming in. The next page, you will see the second one down, 12,000. I want to highlight this one because, again, these are funds from our townships. They have partnered with us to help supply some of those necessary items that we needed during this time. And I just want to add that all townships either gave part of their funds or purchased supplies or equipment to help us through this time. Towards the bottom, you'll see one for the broadband grant, another COVID-19 fund grant. That one just helped with providing the equipment and the internet access, as well as some access points to expand our broadband, just so that we are better equipped to deal with our virtual learning, our remote kids downloading things. And of course, the others are pretty regular. If you have any questions, let me know.
I see on page 3 that the statement for Mr. Markling was paid.
Yes.
$27,274.50. So that was through the end of October, correct?
Correct.
So that was for 4.5 months. So if we get one regularly, as we've asked, I asked monthly, but apparently that hasn't changed anything. But at the end of January, that would be 3 months. So next time when you talk to Mr. Markling, I'd appreciate if you would ask him that he bill us at the end of January. Don't reach out special for that because there's no need to have another bill for something like that. But just, when you talk to him, I would appreciate if you would mention that.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to clarify that was for 5 months, not 4.5. And I would like to point out that under the leadership of Dr. Mike and Dr. Patty, that these invoices have dramatically decreased. So I want to express my appreciation to them for managing the overall fees and managing the district well, so that we can keep these fees as much in line as we possibly can. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Patty, I have a quick question.
Yes.
On the charge on page 3 for the City of Alliance and City of Alliance water utility, are those both to do with the water service to the school?
Where do we have it?
At the top of page 3, it should be second and third one down.
Yes, I will check on those for you, but those are for the water. I believe one of those would be our payment, our yearly payment on the water line. But let me double check on those.
Yeah, because I'd like to know how much we're being charged monthly or semi-annually on that. However, they charge for the full delivery of the water.
I will double check on that.
All right, thank you.
Patty, I have a question that no one's ever seemed to be able to answer. On the first page, at the next to the last one, is a check to the Marlington Board of Education.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. What that is the class of 2020 had some extra funds. And so what they have done is they've donated it to the class of 2024. And that's just how it appears through
So that's the same thing that's marked in the donations on the same agenda?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
all right.
Good question.
Well, I just wondered if it's troublesome. Like, technically, we shouldn't be able to approve a payment to ourselves.
Well, who might you suggest would approve that, Scott?
No one could. That's the point. By putting it that way, I think I don't know. It looks funny. If someone's coming through and looking at it, there has to be an explanation with it. You're right. No one could approve it.
Let me check on that one.
I don't know. I asked a question and no one kind of has the answer.
There may be no other options because I don't think that the classes are able to hang on to their funds for an indefinite period of time. I think they either have to spend them down or turn them back into the school. So I think that I would have to guess that may be our only option to take care of that.
As opposed to an interfund transfer. Why wouldn't we be able to transfer funds from one fund to another without having a check come in the middle of it? I mean, I don't know. There's probably an answer to that, but to me, all you're doing is you're transferring from one pot of money to another, and it probably doesn't need. I mean, we don't need to discuss it.
That's actually a very good question, and I need to call the auditor on that. I believe we've just done this like this historically, and you are very correct. I need to check on that. Thank you.
Any further questions? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens,
Yes.
approved, 5-0. The next item for approval is the donations received. The first one is an anonymous donor. They donated a washer for our cafeteria, which we were in need of. Thank you, whomever did that. The next one is a donation to support our care closet of $250 from Bay. I'm going to try this. Dr. Mike, I might need your help. Del Garbino.
Good. Del Garbino. Yep.
Thank you. The next one is the First Christian Church, and they also made a donation to our care closet. And then you see the next one is the Marlington class of 2020, which donated their funds to the Marlington class of 2024. And the last two are donations, one to Marlington High School for $250 and one to the care closet for $250 from Larry Penny.
Is there a motion to approve the donations for December 2020 as presented?
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? We thank all of our donors and please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens,
Yes.
approved, 5-0. Our next item is to approve the district's tax budget, which is an attachment of J.
Is there a motion that the Board of Education adopt the fiscal year 2022 Marlington Local School District's budget as presented and marked Exhibit J, and direct the treasurer/CFO to submit to the Stark County Budget Commission as prescribed by law?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Could you just explain it a little? I read through it, but, you know.
Yeah, I would love to do that. This is actually a requirement that every year we turn in the tax budget. And if you look at Schedule 1, you will see our taxes, you will see the rate, and you'll see the amount. If you look at Schedule 1, that is on the assessed value, okay, meaning that we're not taking in consideration the appeal, because that is the maximum amount that we can actually ask for. So the next page, you see the appealed values. So this is more in line with what we put in our forecast. If you look at the top, you'll see actual, then you'll see the current forecasted budget, and then you'll see FY22 forecasted budget. And again, this is aligned to our 5-year forecast, and our lease is not added in here, of course, but this is what we're expected to receive rather than on the total assessed value. The third one, the next one is our, I'm sorry, that was our general fund. If you turn the page, that's our permanent improvements fund. Okay.
Mhm.
And again, this just shows the fiscal year 19, 20, and then the 21 through the 22. The next page are basically all the other funds, okay? So if you go down to capital projects of 070, you'll see our figures in there of our resources and our expenditures. And then if you look at down in the CARES Funding Act for 507 and 510, if you look, we have budgeted, or we believe that that's zero, because we are unsure at this time if we're going to receive additional CARES Act, but there is a lot of conversation that we will be getting another round of that. Okay, so at the time, that was the information we had. If you look at the next page, it shows our food service. And again, for our estimated revenue and expenditures. And again, these are aligned to what we project we're gonna get and spend. The next one is our special trust, which we use for scholarships. And then the following page, you'll see that these are district funds and student managed funds. The last page, Schedule 4, is just the bonds or the debts that we have, which include our House Bill 264, as well as the City of Alliance. And Josh, that's where you'll see that payment in connection with the check pay.
Thank you.
Are there questions? It's always going to look a little odd because our taxes are a calendar year versus our forecast is a fiscal year, meaning one is going from January through December. The other one will go through July through June. So that's why it's broken down in all the different columns.
Are there any further questions or discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens,
Yes.
approved 5-0.
Executive session. Is there a motion to enter into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22 to discuss the appointment, employment, dismissal, and compensation of a public employee, and to discuss matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or regulations or state statutes?
Moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens,
Yes.
approved 5-0.
If you would please exit out of the Google Meet and join the second Zoom invitation that was sent to you today for executive session.
Right now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We were declared out of executive session at 9:32. And under personnel, Dr. Mike, do you want me to do the treasurer's contract and then you do the administration?
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay, treasurer's contract, is there a motion to approve the following administrative contract? Dr. Patty A. Main, treasurer, contract period is 8/3/2021 to 7/31/2024.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens.
Yes.
Approved 5-0.
Dr. Mike?
I would like, under B, administrative contracts, recommend approve the following. Nick Evanich, renew him as middle school principal. Steve Miller, renew Steve as the athletic administrator. Dan Swisher, renew Dan as special services director. All have been veteran employees of Marlington. All have done a great job for us. So I'm very proud to recommend those three for renewal.
Is there a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the 3 administrative contracts as presented for the contract period 8/1/21 to 7/31/2024?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens.
Yes.
Approved 5-0.
And then I just have 2 classified subs for you to approve, Gemma Borbajo and Tracy Schilling.
Is there a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the classified substitute list for 2020 to 21 as presented?
So move.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes. Yes.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens.
Yes.
Approved 5-0.
Announcements. Dr. Mike, do you want to do the announcements?
Sure. Our 9 weeks ends tomorrow, and then Monday our students will return to in-person learning. We're very happy about that. February 18th, parent-teacher conferences. And just a word so you and the public knows, all school employees are in 1B, the round 1B for the COVID vaccination. So any employee has already had the chance to say, yes, I would like it. No, I wouldn't. We are just waiting for our date that Marlington will go and have that. It will be a Saturday. And we are anxiously awaiting that. So I'll keep you posted. And that's all I have.
Thank you. The next board meeting will be February 4th, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Gabrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hagan,
Yes.
Mrs. Humphries,
Yes.
Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens.
Yes.
Approved 5-0.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good
night.
Thank you.